The day Max found his brave. Max was a small boy with big, curious eyes and wild hair that always stuck up no matter how much he tried to tame it. He lived in a bright yellow house on Maple Street with his mom, dad, and Whiskers, the wisest, bravest cat Max knew. Max loved his red sneakers, drawing dinosaurs, and Sunday morning blueberry pancakes. But Max had a secret. He was scared of a lot of things, not just monsters under the bed, real little fears that made his heart race and knees wobble. He especially feared the dark. To Max, darkness was like a heavy blanket smothering everything, turning shadows into sneaky monsters and every creak or whisper into ghosts sneaking up on him. His blue room was filled with rockets and astronauts, but at night, when the lights went off, it became a scary place. He'd stare at the closet door, wishing it'd stay shut, but every wind, howl, or house creak made him imagine scary shapes lurking inside. "Max, you're just imagining things," his mom would say as she tucked him in. "There's nothing there but your toys." But Max wasn't so sure. One night, Max lay wide-eyed, listening. The clock ticked like a giant's heartbeat, and the wind tapped the window with bony fingers. Max pulled the blanket over his head and squeezed his eyes shut. Maybe if he couldn't see the scary things, they'd go away. Then he heard a soft whoosh outside the window. Frozen, he didn't dare look. Suddenly, Whiskers jumped onto the bed, nudged his hand, and purred. Whiskers was brave. She never got scared. "Whiskers, do you think there's something scary out there?" Max whispered. Whiskers blinked slowly, meowing softly, like saying, "It's just the wind, Max." "Don't worry," Max sighed, hugging Whiskers close. He wished he could be brave like her someday. Max's days were busy with school and play, but nights were battles with his fears. He stayed away from the basement. Too dark, the attic, too creaky, and even the backyard after sunset. He hid his fears well, but wished he could be brave. Then, one day at school, his teacher announced Adventure Day, a day filled with obstacle courses, garden exploring, and stories around a campfire. The class cheered, but Max's stomach flipped. Campfire stories? Spooky stories? His imagination raced. That afternoon, Max went to the library looking for books about bravery. He flipped through pages of heroes and explorers, but still felt nervous about Adventure Day. At home, as the sun set orange and pink, Max sat on the porch and whispered, "I wish I could be brave." Suddenly, a rustling in the bushes made his heart pound. Out popped Sagia, Fluffy Dog from next door, known as the bravest dog in the neighborhood. "Hey, Max, why so serious?" Sage barked happily. Max shrugged. "I'm scared of Adventure Day, especially the campfire stories. What if I can't be brave?" Sage gave him a wise look. "Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you try even when you are." Max wasn't sure, but Sage's wagging tail made him feel a little better. That night, the scary noises started again, the wind whooshing, the floor creaking. Max's eyes darted, heart racing. He pulled the blanket over his head. Then he remembered Sage's words, "Try even when you are scared." Max took a deep breath, pulled the blanket down, and peeked out the window. A big tree branch swayed in the breeze. Not a monster at all, just a branch dancing. Max smiled. Maybe he could be brave. The sun was bright and warm the next morning. Max woke up feeling a little nervous, but also a little excited. Today was Adventure Day at school. He put on his favorite red sneakers and a blue t-shirt with a big rocket on it, hoping the rocket would help him feel brave. At breakfast, Max's mom smiled and said, "You're going to have so much fun today, Max. Remember, being brave doesn't mean you aren't scared. It means you do your best even when you feel afraid." Max nodded. He wanted to believe that. When he got to school, the playground was full of kids running around talking about all the fun things ahead. Miss Harper, their teacher, gathered the class. "Today, you will take part in the Adventure Challenge," she announced with a big smile. "There will be a race, a treasure hunt, and finally a campfire where we will tell stories. Are you ready?" The class cheered loudly. Max smiled. But inside, his stomach twisted into knots. First came the race. Max lined up with the other kids. When the whistle blew, they all ran fast. Max ran as fast as he could, but he didn't come first. That was okay, he tried, and that was what mattered. Next was the treasure hunt. Miss Harper handed out maps with clues. Max and his friends searched the school garden, looking under rocks, behind trees, and inside flower pots. At one point, Max heard a soft rustle behind the big oak tree. He stopped and looked carefully. What if it was a snake? Or something worse? His heart beat fast. Then he remembered Sage's words, "Try even when you are scared." Taking a deep breath, Max stepped closer. The noise was just a squirrel running up the tree. Max smiled. It's only a squirrel. His friends laughed and called him brave. Max felt a little braver already. After the treasure hunt, the last part of the day was the campfire. Max's friends were excited. They loved telling spooky stories about ghosts, monsters, and mysterious creatures. Max wished he could be excited too, but instead, he felt scared. Miss Prupel 4, Harper led the kids to a clearing behind the school. There was a big fire pit with logs around it for everyone to sit on. As the sun set, the fire crackled and sparks flew into the dark sky. Max sat next to his best friend, Lily. She smiled and whispered, "Don't worry, Max. We'll be brave together." Miss Harper began story time. Once, in a dark forest not far from here, she began, there was a brave little boy who faced his fears and found his own special kind of courage. Max listened closely. The story was about a boy afraid of the dark, but who learned that sometimes the things we fear are not so scary after all. As the story went on, Max's eyes grew wide. The firelight made the shadows dance on the trees, and the night was full of strange sounds. The hoot of an owl, the snap of a twig, the whisper of the wind. Suddenly, a loud crack came from the bushes nearby. Max jumped. Everyone looked toward the sound. "Probably just a raccoon," Ms. Harper said softly, smiling to calm the kids. But Max's heart was pounding hard. He wanted to run, but he stayed. He remembered Sage. He remembered the brave boy in the story. He took a deep breath. Then Ms. Harper said, "I have one last challenge for you all." Max's eyes grew big. "We're going to explore the dark path trail behind the woods where no one has been after sunset." Max's friends looked excited, but Max felt a cold shiver. "Why the dark path?" Max whispered to Lily. "It's a test of courage," Lily said. "If you can walk the path and come back, you found your brave." Max swallowed hard. He didn't want to be left out. He wanted to be brave. Miss Harper handed out small lanterns to each child. Max held his lantern tightly. The light was small but warm. "Remember," Miss Harper said, "it's okay to feel scared, but be brave and take it one step at a time." The kids lined up at the edge of the woods. Max's heart was beating fast, faster than ever. The trees loomed tall, their branches reaching like long fingers toward the sky. The shadows seemed to move and shift in the firelight. Max's hands trembled as he took the first step onto the path. The leaves crunched under his feet. The wind whispered through the trees. Max looked at the lantern. It was a tiny circle of light in the dark forest. The path was narrow and winding. Every snap of a twig made Max jump. Suddenly, a shape moved quickly across the path ahead. Max stopped. "Who's there?" he called, trying to sound brave. There was no answer. His mind raced with scary thoughts. What if it was a monster? Or a wild animal? He wanted to run back, but he remembered Miss Harper's words, "One step at a time." He took a deep breath and stepped forward. The shape turned out to be a friendly raccoon. Max laughed quietly at himself. He kept walking. Deeper into the forest, the path got darker. Max's lantern flickered, making the shadows dance even more. Max thought about giving up. His feet felt heavy, and his heart was tired. But then he heard a soft voice whisper, "You can do this, Max." He looked around, but no one was there. He smiled, feeling brave inside. Step by step, Max walked. At one point, he heard a strange growl from the bushes. His eyes opened wide. He held his lantern up high. Out from the shadows stepped a large dog. Max froze. The dog growled softly, but then it wagged its tail and licked Max's hand. It was Sage! Max felt his fear melt away. Sage stayed by Max's side, walking with him through the dark path. Together, they reached the end of the trail. At the clearing, Max saw the bright lights of the campfire again and the happy faces of his friends. Miss Harper smiled and said, "You did it, Max! You found your brave!" Max's heart swelled with pride. He wasn't afraid anymore. Or maybe he still felt a little scared, but that was okay. Because he had found something much stronger than fear. He had found his brave. The day after Adventure Day, Max felt different. Not quite fearless, but curious about what being brave truly meant. At school, he saw Mr. Lewis, the kind gardener with a wide-brimmed hat and a notebook. Gathering courage, Max asked, "What does it mean to be brave? I still feel scared sometimes." Miss Lewis smiled gently. "Even the bravest feel fear. Bravery is what you do with it." He showed Max a drawing of a tall tree. Think of bravery like a tiny seed in dark soil. It's scared but pushes through to find sunlight. Courage grows little by little, bending but not breaking. Max thought of the squirrel and raccoon he'd met on his adventures, small but brave. "That's why I didn't run from the dark woods," Max said. "And that's why you're brave," Mr. Lewis said. "Can I see the garden sometime?" "Anytime," said Mr. Lewis. "We'll plant seeds. And when you feel scared, remember the tree you're growing stronger even when you can't see it." That night, Max imagined himself as that seed, whispering, "I am growing brave, ready for whatever came next." The sun peeked through Max's window. Adventure Day had finally arrived. Max packed his flashlight, water, and a snack, ready to explore Hidden Hill with his friends. At the park, Lily asked, "Ready for the adventure? Let's find some treasure," Max replied. Mr. Lewis smiled, reminding them, "The best adventures happen when you work together." They started hiking up the steep hill. Max felt brave despite the slippery rocks. Along the way, they saw butterflies flutter, heard birds sing, and spotted a squirrel darting across the path. They soon reached a fork. One path dark and twisty, the other bright and easy. "The dark path looks scary," Lily whispered. Max remembered Mr. Lewis's words. Maybe the scary path is the right one. Hand in hand, they chose the dark path. Shadows shifted and trees whispered, but Max's heart stayed steady. At the path's end, they discovered a small hidden cave. Inside, shiny stones sparkled like treasure. The friends cheered. Max was proud. He'd faced his fear and found something wonderful. On the way home, they laughed and shared stories. Max knew this was a day he'd never forget, the day he found his brave. Max stood at the forest edge as the sun set, feeling proud and excited. He had started the day scared, but discovered true bravery. Bravery isn't the absence of fear, it's moving forward despite it. Max faced the dark forest and strange sounds, trusting his friends and himself. He learned that fear is normal, but courage means trying anyway. Friends and mentors helped him along the way. Follow and subscribe for more stories.